All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Looking at the sun here, 304 angstroms. Got a whole bunch of stuff to cover, so no screwing around. Coming at you ultra early this morning. 304 angstroms view, we're showing a filament or two facing right at the Earth. Large coronal hole, some filamentary activity still in the northeast limb. Let's look at the 193 angstroms view also. There's that coronal hole, a filament, and two more coronal holes following it. So, a little bit of features there to look at. Following a blank solar disk for a long time. Here's the 171 angstroms view again. Giant filament in between those coronal hole systems. A little bit of eruptive activity right there. Nothing to really write home about. Thanks for tuning in. Eden'll do. Also going to look at the colorized magnetogram to see what the field situation is. So no sunspots, just coronal holes dominating the disk. Look at the real-time solar wind, if it's kind enough to load. Please load. Phi angle's down at 89. Solar wind density is a little higher than yesterday, about 5 protons per cubic centimeter. Kind of all over the place, really. Solar wind has upticked a little bit in the past 12 hours to 376 kilometers per second. Here's the planets and so on. Here's where they'll be in 1 week. And let's take a look at the LASCO C3 real quick. And I don't know what the hell happened there. All right, that's really, really annoying. The LASCO C3. There we go. No coronal mass ejections to be seen. Just an ultralight Venus. And let's move on before I sweat, dehydrate, and die. Going to look at the stereo A coronagraph here. To see any activity facing toward the Earth. We're pretty sure there's not, but there's the latest giant plasma plume facing the opposite direction. Let's move on, as there's quite a bit of stuff to cover. And it would be optimal if the pages would load. I promise you, folks, I went through every one of these tabs and made sure they were loaded during show prep. So, next we'll look at the magnetosphere movies. First, the density, if it loads. There it is. And I'll just let that 4 hours of data play through. Thank you, Eden'll do. We're covering the near-Earth object. It's actually a few days old, but we're gonna cover it anyway, as it is in the news. Anyway, there's a density. Here's the pressure. Looks like the majority of the pressure is fixated on the magnetotail portion, at least at the beginning of the movie. Same deal, most of the pressure on the non-sun facing side. And let's move on to ground geospace perturbations. A little closer to home. See what the geomagnetic poles are doing. Siberian pole looking steadier than the Canadian pole, as has been the case for quite a long time. Significant perturbations down there in the South Pole once again as it creeps into the southern Indian Ocean. Sound crazy? It's true, folks. It's true. Here's what's going on above my head. Check out in-the-sky.org. Make your own sky map. Links to the smAsho mission are now in the description every day of our videos, starting today. Thanks, patrons. If you enjoy the content and you'd like to see it continue coming out, please hit up the Patreon page. That's patreon.com/smAshomash. We only have one tier. It's $1 per month. And we're about to change it, where there's going to be a second tier that's going to be $10 per month. But for now, only $1 per month. As we continue to bleed subscribers on YouTube. Also, follow the links in the description below the video to the Hemp Lucid campaign. Just click that box. You'll see our links down there. The Spaced Out campaign specifically formulated for our spaced out viewers. Thanks for those of you who've been buying CBDs. Also, check out the bike shop, theveloshop.net. If you are interested in cycling, original music also linked below the video. More produced stuff is at soundclick.com/goldencatproductions. That's soundclick.com. Anyway, links in the description to that, as well as the SoundCloud with some more obscure, older stuff, weirder stuff. And thanks to all of those of you who've been listening to the music. All right, so there was a near-Earth asteroid that got within 0.2 lunar distances. We're talking about 2019 OK. And there's that object and its trajectory. It goes out beyond Mars's orbit and then comes all the way inside of Venus's orbit. Didn't notice that one until it was far too late. That's a city-killing size asteroid, folks. Estimated to be 79 meters in diameter. If you want to follow near-Earth orbits, check out spaceweather.com. Pretty sure 10.7 centimeter radio flux is back up to 68, folks. It's still being shown at 67 here. Space weather, please update your 10.7 centimeter radio flux. And let's just look at the thermosphere climate index real quick. Wonderful. I would note that at the last solar minimum, the thermosphere was colder than it is now at the end of cycle 23. Just in case there's some channels out there telling you lies about the solar minimum and cosmic rays and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, links to the Zero Hedge article also. Astronomers stunned after city killer snuck up pretty quickly. It flew within 20% of the distance to the moon, otherwise known as 0.2 lunar distances. Here's an animation. Anyway, there's its trajectory. It's basically the same animation we showed you before. Again, links to the description below this video. KP index is up to 2. Smooth sailing there. X-ray flux is totally flatlined. Electron flux has dipped, but not as low as it did yesterday. Ghost magnetometer still showing big sawtooth-looking spikes, as perhaps the crossing of the current sheet polarity boundary is not yet complete, but I would suspect it probably is. Here's the ionosphere. Looking at the last 6 hours, updated every 15 minutes. And F2 layer is looking highly discharged on the nighttime side and fairly normal on the daytime side. Here's the latest image. Actually, it's pretty discharged on both sides, folks. Here's the GOM2 data. And there's that current sheet boundary crossing that we're talking about. Keep in mind this is 1 hour and 50 minutes old. And also keep in mind that magnetic things can change with no warning. So that's something to keep an eye on throughout the day. Follow us on other social media if you like, such as Instagram. Follow the hashtag SideViewSunrise. It's my own hashtag. Here's yesterday's. Thanks for everybody tuning in during the live feed as well as watching later. Please leave a comment. Anyway, follow the hashtag SideViewSunrise on Instagram. See some exclusive content. Also, follow us on Facebook if you like. If you're willing to wade into some of the worst software on the internet, facebook.com/smAsho. We didn't write it. Zuckerberg wrote it. And enough said about that. Also on Twitter, twitter.com/smAsho. And on Gab. And on Minds, the future of social media, minds.com/smAsho. The social media that won't censor you. It's open source. Help us get to 500,000 views. Minds.com/smAsho. And if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe on YouTube. Press the notification bell. Maybe you'll even see these live streams when they happen. Earthquake rundown. And I am sweating, folks. How about a 5.0 in the Solomon Islands? As the earthquake risk continues, we have not seen a large quake. There's a 7.0 magnitude earthquake drought still going on. So if you're in an earthquake-prone area, please have a plan. Have a bug-out bag. Know which buildings will collapse. It's a 4.0 in the middle of Alaska. And there's a 4.1 in Argentina. That one's at depth. The places I would be on warning would be Oceania, all around north and east of Australia, Western South America, and Japan, as deep quakes have been hitting those areas. Here's a 5.1 in Indonesia. Here's a 4.6 at Japan. Here's an interesting quake in California. I just want to zoom in on this real quick. Note the depth. It's at a depth of -0.8 kilometers, meaning it's 800 meters up in the air. Not in the air, obviously, on a mountain. Volcanic activity probably going on there. There's the location of that. Pretty close to the China Lake test range, where that 7+ magnitude quake hit California. And now I'm totally lost. Totally lost. Okay, here we go. That's not the right one. Ugh. All right, there we go. 4.6 in Japan. 4.7 in Dominica. Largest quake we've seen there in a while. And that does not end your risk, as that quake is at depth. Heads up in the Caribbean for a larger quake. A 4.6 at Greece. 4.9 strikes Japan. Here's a 4.4 at Indonesia. 4.1 at India. 4.2 at Virgin Islands. 4.7 at the Philippines. 4.3 at Papua New Guinea. 4.2 at Tajikistan. 4.4 in India. 5.0 in Panama. 5.0 in Indonesia. And let's move on to volcanoes. Here's the rundown. Sanjiang Api exploding, producing an 8,000-foot ash plume down there in Indonesia. Bromo, still in the list, 13,000-foot ash plume there. Dakono, 6,000-foot ash plume there. Explosive activity. Popocatépetl exploding also, 21,000-foot ash plume there. Possible exhalation at Revenador. and weak intermittent puffs of volcanic ash, enough to produce a 24,000-foot ash plume at Sabancaya down in Peru. Please do not pole vault over Sabancaya. Here are the jets. There's a northern jet stream, if you want to call it that, completely governed by convective forces. You could hardly call that a jet stream because that's hardly a jet stream. We like to call this meridional flow when it looks like a jet stream. We've got portions of this that are going the opposite direction, from east to west instead of west to east. Southern jet stream is looking highly meridional, but at least it still looks like a jet stream. And you can see it's going to be pulling hot air and cold air inappropriately. For instance, this area right here, Southeast Australia, will be getting very cold air injected straight out of Antarctica. Global warming update. The lamestream media is going to tell you that the planet's burning up and that Greenland is going to melt and sea level is going to rise. Here's Greenland. Note how the pink denotes 9 feet. Let's put down a marker. More than 5 meters of snow there. 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 You get the idea. We got a big convergence line going from Lake Superior, eastern shores, all the way down to Oklahoma. Let's look at it on the lightning map, lightningmaps.org. Heads up way more. There's thunder rolling in. Here's a water vapor map. We see that convergence all the way from Lake Superior down to Oklahoma. You've got a bunch of moisture that's encased in some dry mass of air here, causing atmospheric compression. Let's just zoom in on that zone right there over Kansas. And there's the water vapor situation over the central US. Looks like these storms are going to be moving a bit to the east. And let's move on to the that is an ass and that is a hole in the ground, vulgarity-free section of video, where we talk about being ungoogleable. As I strive to be ungoogleable and try to get the worst company in the history of mankind out of my life. Why do I say that? Well, because the most important invention in the history of mankind is the internet. And Google's doing more than anybody else to ruin the internet, making them one of the worst companies in the history of the human race. Good luck with that, Google. Good luck with that, Google. It's quite obvious that you are a scam, not a verb. One of the ways to get Google out of your life is to get rid of Google Maps. Now, I use Google Maps, and OpenStreetMap is not a substitute for Google Maps. However, there are some substitutes. We won't get into it. Links to openstreetmap.org in the description below the video. Don't let the creepiest company in the world track your movements. And don't let them track your searches either. Use DuckDuckGo instead, the search engine that won't track you or store your personal information or follow you around with ads. Get the idea? The best thing is, it'll when you do a search with DuckDuckGo, you'll get a thing called objective search results, something you will not get with Google, who will try to shake you down if you have a website, as they tried to shake me down. They wanted me to pay them $350 to, quote, get my listings correct. So I laughed and I laughed. Also, get rid of the Google Chrome browser. It's a jalopy designed to track you, not to function. So check out the Brave browser, whether it's on a PC or a mobile device. Meet the team who are hell-bent on fixing the internet despite so many companies trying to ruin it. Dear Big Tech, you can't break the internet, but the internet can break you. The Fed is going to cut interest rates this week. Not a fan of central banking at all, as markets should control interest rates, not banking cartels. Links to this article also. Expect to see a mild stock reaction as this rate cut is already priced into the stock market, folks. You're going to see a dip in the dollar and an uptick in stocks and an uptick in cryptocurrency. Now, welcome to Earth, where capitalism has not existed since 1913, when the U.S. enacted the Federal Reserve Act. Woodrow Wilson signed it into law 2 days before Christmas in 1913. When everybody came back from New Year, you weren't living in a free economy anymore. Since the largest block of business on Earth is international and corporate loans, how can you have a free market if a banking cartel artificially adjusts those interest rates? Is that what you'd call a free market? Do the math on that, folks. What is an interest rate? An interest rate is the price tag on a loan. If a bunch of banks can control the price tags on those loans, isn't that price fixing? Wouldn't you be kind of mad if all your grocers teamed up and decided to charge the same amount for apples instead of competing for your business? Let's look at crypto. Here's Bitcoin on the Coinbase exchange. There's the 1-year chart of Bitcoin. Down well below $10,000 now at $95.96. Also going to look at Coinbase Ethereum. That's the Coinbase exchange. Ethereum diverging a little bit from the chart of Bitcoin, but still looking very similar. Bitcoin is the only crypto that I currently own. And it's a very small holding, a very small token holding. Now we're going to talk about the stock market for a real quick moment here. As Google went up based on earnings. That's Alphabet Class A, stock symbol GOOGL. And for some reason, it won't display it. How do you like that? Let's see what happens if I type in Alphabet. Alphabet. Okay, well done, CNBC. You can just shove it, CNBC. CNBC owned by Comcast. If you weren't aware, NBC is owned by Comcast, folks. So if you've got beef with NBC, take it up with their parent company. Oil reaching very low levels as a global downtick in the economy is expected due to all kinds of things like rising food prices, which are going to stifle demand. Anyway, there's the crude prices. That's the 1-year crude oil. We'll also look at gold and silver. Gold down to $14.18. Here's a 1-year chart of gold. Theoretically, if it freaking loads, CNBC, what the hell is wrong with your website? It doesn't display Google stock. It doesn't display charts for gold. Well done. Well done. Anyway, gold at $14.1890. Here's silver. Maybe it'll actually show a chart for this. Oh, thank goodness. Now, we were telling people to buy silver back here when it was 14 bucks an ounce. And for those of you who did, congratulations. You may want to take some profits. And we're going to look at one more thing here real quick, and that is corn. There's a corn chart. Keep in mind, it's been much higher than this in the past. 700 is the highest upward support level that we've seen. Don't be surprised if this continues to rise, folks, as food prices are going to keep going up for at least a year. Shout out Christian Westbrook and David Devine if you're watching. I need to talk to both of you dudes. Anyway, the S&P and NASDAQ both reach another record close after strong earnings from horrific companies like Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, and Starbucks. Links to this article also in the description. National Intelligence, what's his Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coates, will step down on August 15th. Links to this article from the Communist News Network in the description below the video. And thanks again for tuning into the stream, folks. It's about time to get the hell out of here. We're going to load some extra images of the sun here, like bonus reels. We're going to break out the 94 angstroms view. Look at the last 7 hours and 15 minutes. As there's some features rising, 2 more coronal holes, earthquake risk remains elevated. Thanks, donors. Please visit the links below the video and help support the channel, as these videos are not free. They're made at massive personal risk and expense. So support the channel. And thanks to those who have been, it makes a huge difference. So anyway, when you're staring at the sun, remember, don't drink. If you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.